Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Batman issue 2 by Matt Fraction, Jorge Jimenez and Tormo Mori. Robin joins in on Batman's adventures once more as we head back into the past where at Wayne Manor, Damian is busy washing the Batmobile when Bruce brings Tim out to the car. Tim is excited to finally get to drive the Batmobile, but Bruce thinks that the Batmobile is an awful lot of car, so he should start with something smaller. He reveals a beat up old truck, which kind of dampens Tim's enthusiasm a little, even made worse by Damian laughing at him and spraying him with the hose. When Matt Fraction was announced as the new writer, I was very intrigued to see how he would handle the Bat family, because sometimes writers don't want to use them, sometimes they may overuse them and have them in every single issue where we don't really have one focused character. But here I like that he is just having Robin around, and who his Robin is really good. It's Tim's Robin I grew up reading a lot of. He was the Robin around the time I really started getting into Batman comics during No Man's Land, and then his place in Young Justice, obviously, so he's got a bit of a special place in my heart. Bruce believes that he's got to learn a manual transmission first, since the Batmobiles can be real monsters. In the present, some gang members raid a truck in the slabs, killing the driver, something one of the members knows wasn't the job, meaning now they are in even bigger trouble. One of the guys grabs something from the back and runs as the cops arrive, darting down an alleyway and leaving the other gang members to deal with the cops alone. Luckily, Robin is there to stop the man, smashing him in the mask and causing him to drop the box. Tim checks out the box, finding it filled not with any sort of new drug or weapon, but simple baby formula, as the man tells him that his baby is always hungry. The look Fraction gives us on what crime is like in Gotham nowadays is pretty fascinating, since just in these first issues we've had stuff like assaults, and here is a guy just trying to steal to survive. It's things we've seen countless times, but I feel it never used to be the quote-unquote main Gotham crime. Usually, it's jewel heists, a villain gassing downtown, blowing up buildings, the bigger stuff. Fraction choosing to focus on the on-the-ground quote-unquote crimes is a neat idea and helps bring these heroes more closer to the people of Gotham and things they have to put up with, like the cops, who soon arrive to arrest Robin and the man. Tim quietly contacts Bruce, hoping they still have friends on the force as the guy tries to run, causing one of the tricky happy cops named Vargas to fire, killing the man. Robin is angry at what Vargas did, but the officer justifies his shot by telling him the suspect tried to run and they are able to treat him as hostile and they must be stopped in any way. Fraction also exploring what the cops have become under the new orders of Vandal Savage is going to be a lot of fun as well, since just from these two first issues we can see there are a lot more trigger happy cops wanting to just kill criminals rather than take them in alive, or they are at least looking for any sort of reason to shoot them. One might say it's kind of a little relevant to the times we live in these days. Realizing he's in a dangerous situation, Robin deploys a bat bang, blinding the cop and bouncing himself up onto a nearby roof. The cop, however, fires blindly and manages to get lucky, hitting Robin in the ribs with a bullet and causing the hero to fall back into the alleyway. Back in the past, Tim finishes his rather eventful first day of driving with Bruce, clearly frustrated since he isn't getting a handle on the manual transmission of the truck. Bruce thinks that he needs to view it like a conversation, with the first gear being the shaking of hands, then easing off of the clutch to say hello. Damian leaps onto the truck, making fun of Tim's failures, and instead Bruce should just let him try. Bruce tells Tim to take his foot off the clutch, and in doing so, the car lurches forward, making Damian tumble off of the hood, something Alfred quite enjoys. This is some fun Bat family stuff. The sibling rivalry with Tim and Damian is great, though that being said, Damian is like this with every member of the family, he's just kind of a dick. But I like that Tim isn't really fazed by his gloating or trying to get him riled up or anything. He's rather calm and collected, which kind of fits his character to a T. Back in the present, the injured Robin wakes up cuffed and thrown into the back of the police van, where he was told he was resisting arrest. In the back of the truck, he finds several other captured criminals, all who have a bone to pick with Robin, being most have tangled with him at one point or another. Vargas's partner asks if he's going to give them a rough ride, and the officer knows of course he is, wanting to show Commissioner Savage that they don't need some hired goon squad in tactical gear doing their jobs for them. I like this idea of disgruntled cops who also hate the new leadership as well as the systems now in place, but also hates vigilantes, so everyone is kind of getting a taste of their anger and frustration. They're not gonna seemingly team up with Robin and Batman against Savage or anything. They hate them both equally. He's just not some evil sadistic cop working for Vandal. That's really quite interesting. I didn't think that Fraction would put a little bit more depth into how the cops are feeling than, just them being evil and working against Batman. Robin meanwhile wants the goons to calm down, but they refuse, coming at him as the cops take off, speeding down the Gotham streets and taking the corners far too tightly and fast, causing Robin and the goons to be thrown around the cab. Robin uses this to his advantage, bashing himself into several of them, but the cops going over a pothole upends everyone in the back, causing Robin to fall hard on a goon and tear open his bullet wound even more. The fighting continues until Tim is able to get his hands free from behind his back and snap the cuffs off with just brute strength. Cops panic now that Robin is free, and they are unable to slow down before the truck hits a series of bat spikes, which were deployed by Batman. The tires of the truck pop, causing it to come to a screeching halt, and I really like that the entire sequence here is just, playing on Tim's strengths as one of the smarter Robins. He's using the environment to his advantage, even when injured and with his hands tied behind his back. Batman frees Robin from the truck as the cops surround them, and Tim warns him of Vargas, who shot the fleeing suspect and also shot him, but the cop doesn't back down, aiming his shotgun at Batman and telling him he isn't afraid to shoot him again. Vargas's partner tells him to put the gun down as Batman and Robin are on their side, but Batman tells them that police brutality and murder put them on opposite sides. So this little panel has kind of become a hot topic, at least in some Twitter circles, and I don't know why, since Batman has always been against police brutality and murder, and the only ones who think any differently are tourists or grifters trying to farm outrage. Of course Batman isn't going to team with police officers who are shooting people. Vargas points his shotgun at Batman and his partner tells him to back down, pointing his own gun at Vargas, and after a tense standoff, both cops fire on each other, but Batman and Robin get in the way, blocking the bullets with their capes, so the cops don't end up dead. However, some shrapnel hits Vargas's partner in the legs. Robin disarms the cop of his pistol while Batman pushes Vargas back down, upset that the cop actually managed to try and somewhat succeed in shooting his own partner. Robin looks after the injured officer, bandaging the wound, but Batman knows they need to leave now. Before they can, Vargas fires his shotgun at Batman's head, hitting the hero in the back of the neck. This is a great showcase of just how kind of messed up Gotham's law enforcement has gotten under Vandal Savage. Cops are openly warring with each other over how to deal with criminals and vigilantes, and now openly shooting each other because of disagreements. It's put the heroes in an interesting position, since now they have all of these cops to deal with, people who at one point were considered their allies are now turning on each other and them and driving them away and isolating them even more. I'm looking forward to seeing how this affects how Batman and the heroes of Gotham operate. Do they become more proactive to cover for misguided cops, or go further into the darkness and just don't engage with them anymore and just completely disregard them? As Batman is racked with pain, we return to the past where Tim and Bruce return to the manor, and Bruce thinks that Tim is getting in his own head again, and Tim doesn't think that he's ready for this, since what if he has to drive the Batmobile in an emergency situation and couldn't make it move, and thinking about that made it even worse. Bruce knows that if that ever happened, there'll be no one better behind the wheel than Tim, since he is his partner and he trusts him wholeheartedly. I like this kind of mentoring Bruce, which I feel like we haven't gotten in a long while, just because, Batman hasn't really had a Robin together with him outside of that Batman and Robin book. But it's nice seeing it play out here, and they're trying to write around things that I imagine Alfred would also be doing at some point. Alfred would be getting a bit more involved in this, but Alfred's kind of staying out of these stories just because he's still technically dead in the present, so I guess I don't want him in the past either. In the present, Robin tries to help Batman, who is discombobulated thanks to the shotgun blast, his head and neck in pain. Robin tells him that they need to leave as the cops are coming, but Bruce is in no shape to drive. Leaving the injured cops all patched up as best they can, Robin takes Batman to the Batmobile parked nearby. Starting the car, Batman tells Robin about the 13 different gears the car has, with 9 standard gears, 3 quantum gears to use during crisis events, and then there's the secret 13th gear. Now this is such a Batman thing to have, a 13 gear manual car. I love little bits of sci-fi stuff like this that Fraction has been throwing around his mostly grounded story, like crisis event gears so the car doesn't get caught up in whatever is going on around them. And then we've got the Chekhov's 13th gear there, which absolutely is coming back at some point. You don't tease a secret 13th gear without actually having something in store for us for that. Robin turns over the engine and the car speeds off through the streets as the news begins reporting on the hero's involvement in the cops crashing the police truck and several villains getting loose. Vandal Savage arrives at the scene of the crime and we find out that Vargas actually died, and the reporters nearby demand statements, but Savage tells his goon squad to get rid of the reporters and break their cameras and jaws, something the masked squad happily obliged by. Vandal isn't upset the cop died though, in fact he's actually quite happy, as later he frames it as Batman is the one responsible for the death of the officer, telling the gathered cops that while they have put up with the heroes and even worked with them in the past, that ends now and Batman and Robin are criminals and enemies of the GCPD and must be dealt with once and for all. I figured we'd be going this route with the story of the heroes being branded as criminals, and it took Vandal long enough to do so. I do like that Fraction is actually keeping him around and actually giving Vandal some probable cause to actually go after these heroes. He's not just doing it because he himself is a villain, he's actually using his vast intellect to manipulate events, turn people against them, turn the cops against the heroes, and everything like that. It's really great use of Vandal, especially for a character who's kind of a holdover from other writers' stories. Fraction is making a meal out of Vandal's story here, which isn't really saying much, I know, because he's just kind of been hanging out there in the background, but Fraction actively using him here in the story and giving him story beats and plot progression is actually really cool. Batman issue 2 was a fantastic focus issue on Batman and Robin, specifically Tim Drake's Robin, their history and how they work well together. Matt Fraction is making a meal out of the hand he was dealt with when he took over the book and is using holdover characters like Vandal Savage and what he's been up to in a really great way, writing a rather interesting and relevant story about police brutality and overreach. I can't wait to see more classic Batman villains turning up in the coming issues and what it means for the heroes now that they are actively being hunted by the cops as vigilantes. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.